And that's yet another DDG win.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dead Draw Gaming YouTube channel. Tonight we have a special guest. We have Jake Gearhart, one of TDG's pro players and one of the best follows on Pokemon Twitter. Always has a daily hot take to provide to y'all. And we are coming together tonight to talk about some of the new cards that got released over the weekend in Japan. These cards are going to be in our Paradox Rift set, releasing in early November, and they're going to be extremely impactful to the competitive Pokemon TCG once they get released. So, with that, how are we doing, Jake? How was your weekend in Pittsburgh?
It was I didn't do too well in the tournament. Matchup roulette didn't go my way. I played Lost Box and I hit a Lugia with a Lost City in it, which was I'm still mad about that. But it's all good.
Nice. Yeah, it was a big tournament. We had like 1,900 people there. And I think Team DG overall did really well. We had Andrew Hedrick get into top four, and Hunter Butler just got squeezed out of top eight with the 12th place finish. So all in all, a pretty good weekend, I'd say. So yeah, like I said, we kind of wanted Jake has kind of been burning up Twitter with his takes on these new cards. So want to kind of get his opinion on a few of them because, you know, like I said, they're going to be extremely impactful and they're kind of reminiscent of some of the stronger cards we had released in previous November sets or the kind of winter sets. So with that, we're going to look at the first card, which is Iron Hands EX. This is a lightning Pokemon, and the new kind of gimmick with Paradox Rift is going to be future trait and ancient trait Pokemon. Iron Hands is a future trait Pokemon, and it's got 230 HP, a first attack for 2 lightning and 1 colorless, hits for 160, and then for 1 lightning and 3 colorless, it's hitting for 120. And subtext says if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, take 1 more prize card. So I think the prediction is it's going to be pretty strong into a Miraidon deck. That 4 energy cost doesn't seem too high if you consider Electric Generator allows you to get 2 energy out of your deck. Flaffy allows you to get energy out of your discard. And realistically, you could get this powered up in 1 turn with 2 Flaffy attachments and a double turbo energy. You know, and double turbo is going to reduce that damage down to 100. But one thing to point out, I actually didn't pull it up. I should have, but there's a tool card that's getting released in the same set that actually acts as a float stone and a muscle band in one, and is going to provide free retreat and additional 20 damage to any future Pokemon the tool is attached to. And before I hand it off to Jake, I just wanted to go over his first tweet, his first take on this. You know, he said, I promise never to complain about game design again, but legitimately think this card is a bigger mistake than printing Lugia, Archeops, and also compared it to ADP GX from way back in the day. Well, I guess it's not way back, but, you know, 4 years ago now, which this just completely flipped the metagame on its head and dominated the TCG for, you know, entire time it was out. So, Jake, what are your opinions on Iron Hands? Want to expand a little bit on what you're...
Yeah, so my concerns with this card, there's like a lot. First of all, we can like use previous cards to compare it to that have had similar effects, like Arceus Dialga Palkia GX was one of them. I've seen a lot of people comparing it to Lugia EX from the Plasma sets, which had a similar attack, 120 for 4 colorless, and then you have to discard a Plasma energy attached to use it, and then you take an extra prize card. And that card was good back in the day, but not broken. It was pretty balanced. It could only go in the Plasma decks, even though like you could splash it in things. Like, and then there's also Rayquaza Deoxys Legend from even farther back, which took an additional prize card. There's a Guzzlord during the Sun and Moon era, which took extra prize cards. And then most recently, Stoutland V, which we saw take Lugia take advantage of last year. But my concern with this card, like first and foremost, is the second effect is completely unrestricted. Stoutland V has to knock out a basic Pokemon. Lugia EX had to discard a Plasma Energy attached to it. Rayquaza Deoxys Legend was impossible to get to put into play. You had to combine these legend pieces, so only few decks could use it. And then the Guzzlord from the Sun and Moon era had an atrocious attack cost that nothing could power up. But this 1 Lightning Energy and 3 Colorless Energy, any deck that plays any type of energy acceleration can play this card. So I'm not really concerned about this in Miraidon, actually. I think it's like kind of balanced, especially since we lose Flaffy, presumably one set after this when we get rotation. Where getting that powered up with Electric Generator, it's going to be difficult to get the 4 energy on here. But I'm way more concerned about this with stuff like Baxcalibur and the new Xatu from the set, which is Shadow Rider's ability, but it can attach to anything, as well as literally any future acceleration ability that can print. And also Charizard EX can attach to this. So any deck in the next 3 years which can play energy acceleration, if that energy acceleration can get 4 energy on this thing on turn 2, you can just start obliterating any deck that plays that has to put 1 prizes in play, which is every stage 1 and stage 2 EX decks through it now and in the future.
Yeah. Do you think does the support around the future trait ability or kind of feature, is that going to make it even worse? Because like putting out a tool card that gives you free retreat and an extra 20 damage, and there's even a supporter that allows you to pick up any Pokemon and put it into your hand, does that even make this more overpowered and less counterable?
I think it'll depend on what else they have in the set. We obviously haven't seen everything yet. And I don't think especially the tool card's really the only thing that synergizes with this. The AZ reprint, the Professor Turo card, it's a future card, but it doesn't have any synergy with Iron Hands or anything like that. The tool could see play, but honestly, like I don't think you need that tool for this attack to be absurdly broken. Because it just like decreases the number of turns you need to win, like, and puts so much pressure on your opponent. Like if you get this off turn 2 against an evolving deck, which like right now Gardevoir EX probably hits the turn 2 like Gardevoir Candy maybe like around 50% of the time, maybe a little more. If Gardevoir goes second, Iron Hands attacks for the like the Iron Hands player goes first on turn 2, they extreme amplifier against Gardevoir EX, and Gardevoir misses the turn 2 Gardevoir, they instantly lose the game. So Gardevoir, I think, is if there is a deck that is good and the metagame doesn't like completely counter all these energy acceleration abilities somehow, Gardevoir is like invalidated as a deck. You cannot beat a turn 2 extreme amplifier consistently. Like you lose, if you lose the opening coin flip, you basically lost the game at that point. Even if you get the response knockout, they can just set up another Iron Hands EX and just knock out your Shiny Arcana Gardevoir or your Drifloon with Charm once rotation happens. And something like the Charizard EX as well. Like Charizard EX will be able to respond to this, but like as long as the Iron Hands deck can use like Boss's Orders to chase things on the bench, like I think in a Baxcalibur deck, you can use this to knock out Manaphy. And if your opponent doesn't put Manaphy back down, you Radiant Greninja their bench, take 2 more prize cards. And every turn you can keep doing this. You can play Lost City to get rid of the Manaphy, or you could just knock it out because it sets up, it forces your opponent to hit more, and it's working into your prize trade. Like the tough thing about these cards, which take extra prize cards, is like their weakness doesn't really matter at all. Like you normally look at a card like this, it's a lightning type, fighting weakness. Okay, what's the best one prizers that are fighting type that I can put in my Lost Box deck or whatever? And there's a good Terrakion card, which like Lost Box could play, or Garchomp EX once that comes out, which is like 120, and then you prevent all effects done to itself by during your opponent's next turn. So that's like the best one prizer that like a couple decks can use. But even if like your Terrakion hits into this, Iron Hands, they drop down another Iron Hands, boss something on your bench, and Terrakion can't use its attack on a second turn. So your counter is like done if they hit that. If it's any other basic fighting Pokemon, they knock you out. You can just extreme amplifier them back. So it has to be a fighting Pokemon that survives the attack. And like we mentioned before, there's that tool. There's also Zapdos from Pokemon Go, which increases the damage. So this like the damage is so high that you can't be looking at one prizers to counter this, because all your one prizers are two prizers against this. And we don't currently have any good fighting two prizers that are like splashable and would survive against anything that Iron Hands can be combined with, because again, these decks based on energy acceleration usually have very high damaging attacks. Like Chen Pao EX can hit infinite damage if depending on how much energy you play. Charizard EX can hit really high damage. What else? The Xatu you can pair with the new Mewtwo EX in the set, or anything else. And as long as your two prizer is within range of any of those attacks, then they can just switch into using one of those to knock you back out. So if an Iron Hands attack leads the game, like a player gets their first Iron Hands attack, it's just a vicious cycle. Against Lost Box, you can think of like Iron Hands forces a response from Dragonite V, and then Dragonite V can be knocked out by Chen Pao EX. And then the Chen Pao player has two prize cards. The Lost Box player has 4 left, and they have like 5 cards or 7 cards in the Lost Zone. Maybe they got judged or whatever. And like Sableye is not going to have enough time to do anything. Like the pressure of Sableye is like really it needs a lot of turns. Like Lost Box needs turns to take advantage of these things. Also Gardevoir with like Cresselia and just setting up in general.
My next question was going to be, with this coming out and in the same set, there's a Jirachi that prevents damage counters from being applied. That's an ability that's on the Jirachi. Does that just kind of make Lost Box a completely unplayable deck following this set?
I think so. I think firstly, the Jirachi, when I saw that revealed, I don't see it as particularly a strong card. I could be underrating it. I haven't given it like all that much thought, but just having Manaphy and Jirachi on your bench is so bad. Like Lost Box could play an Avery, and you just you have to get rid of your support. Like you only have 3 bench spots for all your attackers and support Pokemon. That's not enough. But I don't think I think the decks that would be playing Jirachi are decks that get destroyed by Iron Hands, so they're just not viable as much anymore. If Iron Hands is played as much as I think it will be, and the decks that would play Jirachi are the decks that Lost Box is good against. And if all the decks that Lost Box is good against are bad, then Lost Box is bad because it has no good matchups. So, like I think this Iron Hands will make the Chen Pao Lost Box matchup like perfectly fine, and that's probably its biggest gatekeeper right now. Chen Pao like is great against anything. It can one shot for 2 prizes, and now this lets you turn Lost Box into a bunch of 2 prizers. So it's like a very inconsistent, high rolly, ridiculous deck that you have very little control over stopping. And I see that as like a pattern with this card. Like no matter what you do, any deck that uses this card is going to be like high rolly. It's got fast games. One of the things that adds like skill expression to Pokemon is managing your resources and planning ahead. But if you just have to burn all of your resources. Both players burn all their resources to set up or play against Iron Hands. Like you don't have a choice whether or not you can play your Professor's Research to try and dig for turn 2 rare candy in Gardevoir, or if you can like play a slower game, you're forced to just go as fast as possible and still probably lose anyway. And then long games like playing ahead. Well, if your opponent wins in 3 attacks, three 2-prize knockouts, like that's a 4-turn game. We're back to like the VMAX wars, hitting each other and winning in 3 attacks on turn 2 and 3 and 4. And
I don't think that's a future anyone wants to see particularly.
Yep.
I hope not. So, okay, well, some very interesting matchups are going to be happening once the set comes out. It's gonna be really interesting, as this set is, I think, going to be the LAIC meta. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. The next card that seems pretty broken in the Paradox Rift set is this Technical Machine De-Evolution. I guess this is a tool card that allows the Pokemon to use the attack De-Evolution for 1 color synergy, and it devolves each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon by putting the highest stage evolution card into your opponent's hand. So, what this is seemingly good for is to get a lot of damage on the board on a couple of Pokemon, and then use the de-evolution attack, get them down either to their basic or stage 1, where the damage already on the Pokemon is greater than that Pokemon that it has been devolved into, hopefully knocking them out and taking at least 1 or 2 prizes. Is this overpowered? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so this card, like if you just added it to the current format, and we'll see this in Japan because I believe this is coming out in their Raging Surf set, which will be out before the Paradox Pokemon. This card is like super impactful. You can imagine in Lost Box, if you're a Lost Box player going up against Gardevoir EX, like if your opponent has like a Cresselia active or something, usually using like Cramorant on the Cresselia isn't all that great, or like they're raiding Greninja or a Zacian V, they can always collapse Stadium it away. But what you can do is just attack. Cramorant makes this cost 0 energies, so you can attack with like Cramorant, just devolve your opponent's entire board of Curlia to force them to find rare candies. So basically, this makes firstly we don't have a lot of like rare candy based like dedicated stage 2 decks right now. Gardevoir is like the main one, but Gardevoir like plays 4 Curlias. But any stage 2 deck that would just play rare candies gets like a massive debuff because of this card, because your opponent can, if you use a rare candy to get out your attacker, your opponent can just devolve you, setting you back a turn. You have to find another rare candy to evolve back up. And then also like the issue of Lost Box, like spreading damage, or Inteleon or Shifu spreading damage, or anything that can really spread damage and then just devolve at anything. Like I've said before on Twitter that I didn't expect we'd be seeing any like spread decks succeeding anytime soon, because printing an effect like this would be extremely broken, and I think it is. And I'm surprised they did it. But at the same time, I don't think this card is going to be all that good, because we're going into a big basics format, which is the Iron Hands dominated format, and there's not going to be all that many evolutions to take advantage of like devolving. If Sableye is not as good, then devolving, like there's not many good spread attacks that can. The issue with the spread attacks really is that they're either too weak to see play, like they're weak, they're on the power level of like low basic HP Pokemon, like Ralts and Curlias and Charmanders. And you can spread a couple times and then devolve and knock those out. But those spread attacks are terrible against something like Miraidon, which puts a bunch of 220 HP Pokemon in play. You need tons of spread damage to knock those out. And then, so I think any devolving strategy is going to have like very polarizing matchup spread against any like basic EX deck. It'll be pretty bad against, and any evolving EX deck, it'll be super broken against.
Mhm.
But
Just a kind of a counterpoint, like if you expect and this is very, very early days, very early predictions, but if like just on the face of it, Excalibur Chin Pao is the, you know, easiest way to power up an Iron Hands. Is this just a kind of semi counter to that by being able to take away the Excalibur evolution and kind of disabling the ability to get an Iron Hands powered up?
yeah, so the current issue with Chen Pao Excalibur is that Chen Pao discards all your energy after you attack. So if you want to knock out something with like 220 HP, you've got to discard 4 energy. That's most likely all of your energy in play.
Mhm.
And then you're really vulnerable to getting your Excalibur knocked out. You'll need like you have to put an extra Frigibax in play so you can make sure you can rare candy that up, because if your opponent ever removes your only Excalibur, you're in a really bad position. But you can imagine if Excalibur powers up Iron Hands, and then your opponent devolves your Excalibur, you don't care. You're just going to boss up a 1 prizer and take 2 more prizes with your Iron Hands, not even bothering to re-evolve your Excalibur. Maybe Excalibur decks would include one of the Arctibax, I think is the stage 1, just to get it in play so they don't need another rare candy. But like this isn't much of a counter because it's not dealing with the Iron Hands, because the Iron Hands keeps all the energy in play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you get into the mid to late game, it's not going to matter at all. It's more of like you have to do it immediately after uh they've evolved in Excalibur and hope that they haven't flooded the board with 8 of their 10 energies already, right? So
Well, yeah,
yeah.
they only need if you're against if you're playing a VMAX deck or something that really needs, like, your opponent has to use Chen Pao to take care of, like, then this card could be good against that, because Iron Hands isn't very good. But the issue is that once the energy is in play on Iron Hands, it's not getting removed until you knock out the Iron Hands. It's the same issue with like I get playing against Gardevoir EX right now, is if they load up a Shiny Arcana Gardevoir with like 9 energies or something, you can't just chase down the Gardevoir EX a lot of the time. You have to deal with the active with all the energies, because if you boss down their Gardevoir EX, they still got an attacker set up in play. Whereas this, like, the Excalibur is only needed to power up the Iron Hands, and then once the Iron Hands is in play and powered up, Excalibur is useless. You don't need it anymore until your Iron Hands gets knocked out, in which case your opponent can't be playing this de-evolution TM.
Right. Okay, cool. So just on to the last 2 cards we'll cover just kind of quickly. I don't want to keep this too long. So the exact opposite technical machine is getting released. The technical machine evolution for 1 colorless allows you to choose 2 of your bench Pokemon and search your deck for Pokemon that evolves from that Pokemon and put it on that Pokemon to evolve it. So basically, as your first attack, you can cheat out 2 evolved Pokemon into play. And I don't see this being too good, but what do you think? Is there any capability for this to be good in a deck?
Yeah, I have like very mixed feelings on this card. Like from a game design perspective and a playing perspective, I think this card, if we didn't have Iron Hands, this card would be very powerful. Any like Charizard EX deck would probably love to play this, especially that delayed Charizard build that we saw come out of Japan. And in the future, any stage 2 EX would love to just get 2 evolutions right away. We saw effects like this on Diancie from Burning Shadows, which was played with the 2017 World Champion winning Gardevoir GX deck, where its attack is the same as the Indeedee from the Sword and Shield base set, where you can, for 1 colorless, or back then it was 1 fairy, you could search your deck for a evolution and evolve it 1 evolution. The problem with that is you have to get it into the active spot. So you need like a switching card, or you need to start it. whereas this can be attached to anything in the active. So it's more powerful in that regard already. And then you get two instead of just one, which is a huge deal. So much more powerful. And from like a game design perspective, I don't like this card existing very much because um, it forces like any player which hits this card is going to be at a big advantage against an opponent who misses it. Because like it just puts more, it speeds up the game more. It forces you to, every deck is going to be built around expecting to hit this. So you have to hit it, otherwise you lose the game. But like a player going first can't use this. So I think it does balance out in that regard, that only the player going second will be able to get this first. And this effect is also like probably really strong in the surviving like V-Star decks, like Arceus and things can get up all of your evolutions before your opponent has a chance to chase them down. Could be niche in that regard. But in an Iron Hands format, I don't know how good this is going to be anyway, because evolution decks just seem like to have such an uphill struggle. And like I'm hoping that I'm very wrong about Iron Hands, and it's not a great card, but I'm anticipating it to change things a lot.
Yeah, you could see this, I think, being played into like Baxcalibur, Chinpao, Palkia, like, or you mentioned Charizard, where especially in Baxcalibur, you can get your Baxcalibur, your Argibax and the Palkia V-Star out kind of on your turn one. And this is going to be a little easier than in previous formats to get out, because you have a stadium and a supporter that allows you to search out tool cards. So be slightly more efficient, especially when you are preferring to go turn two and you can use the supporter on your first turn. But it's going to be interesting. I personally really like the Techno Machines. I'm not, if Iron Hands turns out to be completely overpowered like ADP was, I think it's awful for the game. Hopefully it's has much less of an impact than that did. Now the last card I just want to get real quick opinion on. This is just a prove a point with a friend. Gholdengo EX. We've got a Gold Rush ability or attack for 1 metal. Discard any number of basic energy cards from your hand. It does 50 damage for each card you discard in this way. It's also got an ability where once during your turn, you can draw a card. If this is in your active spot, you may draw 2 cards instead. So that seems particularly strong, and it's got 260 HP in a stage 2 evolving from the, I don't even know, Gholdengo or something like that. Is this going to be even close to being competitive when we get to November?
I think it's very on the edge. It's very close to being good. And I also hate this card. They're taking extra prize cards and doing infinite damage, like uncapped damage, is just so bad for the game in general. Like being able to, like, how do you counter this if you're a deck that wants to, like, it invalidates any like tanking strategy. Any if you're trying to be a stage 2 deck, like leveraging your big HP that you worked so hard to get out, and then this Pokemon can just Gold Rush for a knockout no matter what. It's really bad, but like really bad for the game, and for anyone playing a tanking deck, but really good for the Gholdengo player. And I think this does have its advantages. The HP is like pretty solid. It's hard for Miraidon decks to hit, and it's also a metal type, so it's very annoying for Chen Pao to deal with. But at the same time, like what would have been a huge advantage evolving from a non-EX Pokemon, a one prizer, over something like Giratina V-Star, which has to put a liable 220 HP Giratina V in play. Well, that would have been a great advantage, but with Iron Hands coming around, it's like not that much of an advantage at all. You force out the Iron Hands, but this doesn't. You still have to hit a good amount to knock out the Iron Hands in response. You need 5 energies for that. Actually, probably not too hard to respond. So this might be able to keep up with Miraidon, Baxcalibur, those types of decks. But the gameplay in these matchups is going to be really, really like just generic and skill-less because you're just trading one-hit KOs back and forth.
Yep.
You need to win in 3 attacks. You either win on turn 4 or your opponent wins on turn 4, and that's kind of it. So well, we could have seen like cards like the Iono, which is like a lot stronger in a long game because players have to like use more of their resources over a long game, use more supporters, so they're left with fewer options and fewer ways to draw out of things like these Ionos. But this has got a great ability. The Miraidon or the Chen-Pao Baxcalibur deck is probably not going to be using Path to shut this off. Miraidon could. So yeah, the ability is good. Most likely pairing with the Corellia engine could be good, and also probably benefits from Iron Hands getting rid of Lost Box, like making Lost Box a lot weaker and making the matchups that Lost Box is good against a lot weaker of decks. So you won't have to go up against Sableye that often. But at the same time, like it would have been nice to be able to Cheryl this against a Lost Box deck. You can just keep a couple of Gholdengo in play and try and Cheryl them because you've only got a 1 energy attack cost. I think this is a very promising card. Like I would have said the Garchomp EX that we have in this set was like a really powerful card going into this format, but now that we have like lightning and one-shot decks on top, I don't know how good that's going to be.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's very reminiscent of kind of the Blacephalon GX and Baby Blounds back in the Lost Thunder and Unbroken Bonds era. And there's a lot of support cards that are good. Everything that makes Chen-Pao go, like Superior Energy Retrieval. And there's some cards that allow you to get some energy out of the deck now too. So could be good. I think I lost the argument with my friend in this analysis. So thanks a lot, Jake. All right, cool. Well, I think that pretty much covers it. Any other cards you wanted to hit on from the new set, or that pretty much cover it for now?
Yeah, there's the Iron Valley EX, which is also like really scary, but not too much to talk about there yet. It's I don't know how it'll kind of depend on how much other support it gets from the set once we get it fully revealed. That one we got revealed at Worlds.
Okay.
But it's all of these cards, like all these basic EXs, it's the one that looks like Gardevoir. But yeah, all these basic EXs get like a lot better because the format's like really pushing away from basic Pokemon, or really pushing away from stage 1 and stage 2 EX Pokemon. So that's not great for those Pokemon, but it's good for anything that's a basic. So yeah, all the basic EXs, I think, take another look at them because they're going to get a lot better once Iron Hands kicks away all the evolutions and the evolution TM.
Okay. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jake, for joining us tonight. Where are we going to see you next in action? You're heading out to Peoria for that regional?
Yep, I'll be in Peoria. I'm in Chicago, so it's only a couple-hour drive away, which is really nice. Yeah, I went 7-hour drive to Pittsburgh, which was a long drive. Yeah, hopefully going to be testing Charizard EX for that. Like I posted before that I had also come up with that like Gallade Charizard engine deck, but without the 70 HP Charmander, it wasn't a great play for Pittsburgh. But once we have that, that deck is pretty cool. So maybe you'll see me there playing that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I'm gonna be going up to Chicago, so I might have to sneak the list away from you to take to Chicago, or take to Peoria rather. Awesome. Okay, and you want to shout out your Twitter handle real quick?
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter at Jake K Gearhart, or just search up my name, Jake Gearhart, and you should be able to find it.
Yep. And check out the start of this video. We kind of flashed one of his tweets from over the weekend up, so you can go find it. Also, go check out deaddrawgaming.com. Got a ton of selection up there for your tournaments coming up, your cups, challenges, and all the upcoming regionals. October is going to be a super busy month. We got 3 regionals followed by LAIC in November. And finally, go check out cuttertap.com. All of our Team DG players are writing articles that go up on Cutter Tap. Jake should have a article up here in the next couple weeks, I think. Hopefully he can maybe tease a little bit of Charizard or get into some other deep statistics like he did in his first article for Cutter Tap. So we've got a article from Hunter Butler covering his Pittsburgh 12th place finish. Gabriel Smart TCG has an article going out talking about the new Pokemon 1-51 set, which is going to be very impactful for Peoria and Sacramento regionals. So a lot of great content up on there. All right, with that, thank you all so much, and we'll catch you next time.